And so if you're like, hey, I'm not comfortable with how I feel, I'm not comfortable with how I move, and I look down and it's like I don't recognize my body, the first place we typically start in creating that deficit is snacking. Hey, it's your coach, Jess Gunn, and the host of the Stronger You podcast, where we cut out all the noise and we get honest talking about what really matters to us. We'll chat about everything from how you feel about yourself to all things food and exercise, and also how to best navigate our sometimes crazy days as we focus on doing our best to create a strong mind and body so that we can feel, move, and look our best. I really hope you enjoy this episode. Do any of you struggle with snacking and craving certain things? Even if you're to a point where like, I'm not really hungry, I don't want that, but your body's like, yes, this is what we want. And you think about it and all of a sudden you can taste it and that's all you can think about is till you have it. Now, ironic thing is, it's never like you're craving broccoli or protein. It's generally something sweet, right? So this is something that I've noticed and I wanted to talk about because I don't want anyone to think, I can't see. I don't want anyone to think like, it's just me going through this, right? That's what I say every single time. I don't want anybody sitting at home thinking I'm a failure. Why can't I overcome this? I feel like when we understand that most people, even people that are healthy, even coaches, still have these things to deal with, then it's like you can breathe, give yourself some grace and know that this is a common thing and it isn't super easy to overcome. So what I'm talking about is sugar, honestly. Because like I said, it's never the healthy foods, the nutrient dense foods that we're craving or that we want or we seem to have a problem with. And maybe you do, and that's great. You're getting more vitamins for whatever it is that you're craving. But generally, most of the clients that reach out, people on Instagram will say, hey, it's sugar, it's treats. It's like from 8 p.m. on, I'll have 5 snacks. Or I can't control, I have 2 bites and I want 10 more, or I finish the whole thing. Or I will say, I'm not gonna have that today. And I crave it all day. And then I end up giving in. I realize I'm addicted to it, but I don't understand. It's like, it's not something that even has caffeine in it. So why am I craving it, right? There is so much that goes into it. And so as you guys know, I talk a lot about habits. We don't want to follow a diet, right? That means short term. It means you follow something you don't understand. You don't know what works for your body. You haven't changed any of your habits. You do it for a time period. You stop doing it. Typically, we gain all the weight back, right? Because you don't understand what our normal patterns are, where our mindset is with food, most importantly, what our relationship with it is, right? And so when we don't do a diet, but have a body fat loss goal, so you want to be in a deficit, right? So you're thinking, what am I eating throughout the whole day? How many snacks? How big are my portion sizes? How many times am I going out to eat? How many Cokes am I having, right? All of those calories add up. And so if you're like, hey, I'm not comfortable with how I feel, I'm not comfortable with how I move, and I look down and it's like, I don't recognize my body, the first place we typically start in creating that deficit is snacking, which is why I want to talk about it. I remember when I started a few years ago, I hit age 37 and this was after 4 kids. And I had never really prioritized or paid attention or cared, to be honest, about eating or movement. I'd kind of always been skinny. And then, I hung on to some weight after each kid. And then by the 4th, I remember within like a year, I'd put on extra 15 pounds and I'd look down and it was like, I don't recognize my body. Things aren't fitting. They're popping out in places they didn't. And I've got this red swimsuit that I share with a picture on because I use that as my progress photo picture, which I never in a billion years thought anyone would ever be seeing. And now I use it often because I don't fit it, but I used to fit it. And it is so crazy when you put these on next to one another and, it's like, that's not me, right? You don't resonate like, well, how did my body get here? And then I remember like, we all have different standards. You notice it for your clothes might not fit right. And I remember sitting on the toilet and it was like my thighs like covered so much of the toilet seat. And all of a sudden it was like out and out and out further. I yelled to my husband like, oh my gosh, like what am I doing? But my body is shifting and changing and I don't feel like me. And more than that, I noticed I don't feel good. I'm very cranky, annoyed, irritable, snappy, tired, lethargic, ornery, all those things towards the end of the night. And they'd all noticed, so it wasn't fair to them, but I don't know what it was. So he said, well, you've got these same things happening at the same time. You might want to look at what you're eating or getting some movement in, right? And so the obvious place for me to start, because I didn't know what calories or macros were. I didn't think about, I need more protein or my fiber's off. Like I had no concept of that. I just stayed home raising kids. I had fun. I ate what they ate, right? It hadn't ever really bothered me. And I think until you get to a point to where something bothers you or you don't feel like yourself or you notice you don't fit something the same or you're not moving the same. You have to have like that pinpoint of like, oh crap, I probably should evaluate, because what I've been doing, my identity of everything I've been doing, lack of movement and how I used to eat is me, but it's not serving me anymore. So I need to shift my identity to somebody that is aware of their food, that is conscious of getting movement in. And it wasn't starting with lifting weights or anything. For me, it was just like literally moving and walking more, baby steps. And so when I look at all the things I could change, it was like, well, the obvious thing is snacks. I snack on anything throughout the day. If they have a fruit roll up, I have a fruit roll up. If they want a popsicle, I have a popsicle. And I started looking at how much and how often I was eating during the day. And I was like, this seems like a lot of food. I don't know how much I should be having, but my body's not responding well, right? And how I feel, and my body's holding on to excess body fat. So I can tell, obviously, I'm in a surplus, which I didn't know that word at the time, but I'm giving my body more than what I'm moving. And so it's out of whack. And I didn't want to move yet. I wasn't ready to add exercise. And so I focused on the sugar. So I did not know how to like swap out snacks or what would be healthier. I didn't know how to read food labels. Like I just didn't care up enough to that point. But common sense told me anything with sugar in it, the soda I was drinking, the ice cream, the popsicles, all that was not adding up well. So there's two things you can do. So if you resonate being at that stage, right? I'm no longer at that stage, but that's where I was for decades. If that resonates with you, what I suggest is you can do this a couple ways. If you decide, I don't feel well, I want to change, and it's okay to say, this isn't my body, I don't recognize this, right? Like it's me, but I've let it get to a point to where I don't feel like me anymore. And I want to get to a healthier place. We always look at being right in a deficit, because of our eating habits of how much we've eaten, all the snacks I'm doing, I can't stop at certain serving sizes. I want, oh my gosh, I go to grab a little Rice Krispie. I'm like, oh, I have one because one's fine. Well, I can't, I know myself. You have to ask yourself your habits. Like I am somebody that cannot just take one. Every time I walk by, it's another piece, another piece, another piece. And because they're so teeny, I don't feel bad. But then by the 10th time, 2 whole rows are gone. And then I'm like, well, I've had 2 whole rolls. I might as well just finish it. Well, I know I'm going to keep snacking through the rest of the day. Might as well just finish it. I'm going to keep doing it tomorrow. Might as well just finish it. Right? That's kind of where my brain is. And so as I step back and realize like, I don't really have any self-control or boundaries or a plan with how much I want to eat. And that's why it's just kind of like consuming all of it. It's an all or nothing. Whereas I needed to work on just being satisfied, right? I don't want to be starving. So meaning I want to partake a little bit, and it's okay to have a little bit of the Rice Krispie, but I also don't want to be stuffed, because I would overeat it and then I literally wouldn't feel well, right? You get the pit in your stomach and then you feel bad. So then the guilt sets in of like, why can't I control this? I do this every time. That's not going to help my situation as far as feeling better or putting on more body fat. It's just this terrible relationship with food that I had. And so I want you to look at yourself and identify like some of your own traits, like I had to do. Are you an all or nothing? Can you stop when you're satisfied? Can you walk by it and say, yeah, I want that, but I don't need it right now because I'm not hungry. I'm not that way. My body literally like can taste the sugar. And so it's like a craving of like, I have to have it. And then I think about it. So for one, don't have them in your house, right? So if you identify as you do not have the self-control right now, right? Because that's not the identity that you have. My identity was eating all of it. That's all I knew. So I have to work on adjusting that. So it was getting out of the house. I don't care who else eats it. If you shouldn't be eating, it's not healthy for you, then it probably shouldn't be for anybody else. So remove it for a little while. And I am a pro of having having a snack and having a treat every day. But my problem was I had tons of all of it. And I literally I could not eat it. So don't have it in your house. And that can seem hard, but try it. Give yourself a couple of days, see how that works. Second is working on assessing yourself. Am I someone that has that all or nothing? Do I have boundaries with food? And then how guilty do you feel after eating? Because we shouldn't have any emotion with food. You should just eat it, not eat it. Right? Not feel guilty after eating it, or associate food as being bad or good or a cheat meal, right? It's just food. It's just a matter of calories. It's our habits we need to look at, not the food, but our habits of, I'm okay to have some of that. But am I having an abundance? Am I having an excess? Am I having too much for the calorie goal that I probably want to hit every day for my health, right? We also don't want too much sugar. I mean, it jacks, and that'll be a whole other thing we need to talk about, from blood sugar to insulin and how that regulates and spikes, and that throws your body. And if you're all over the place and insulin resistant, you're not going to lose body fat at all. And so there's a lot of negative consequences from having too much sugar. And so with that said, just look at, where are you? What is your identity? How do you relate to food, right? Do you feel bad? Do you feel guilty over eating something? Are you someone that's emotional? So if you have a bad situation with a spouse or a work or friend situation, do you then go to food as your comfort when you're stressed? Because sometimes with stress, people eat more or eat less. So it's identifying all that. Like before we can change anything, we got to look at us and see, okay, what are my habits? What are I naturally inclined to do? And then decide, literally writing it out on paper, if I'm choosing to change this habit, meaning I'm going to change the identity of how and the relationship I have with food, how I view it, and if it's a reward system, if it's a binging system, right? Because long term, it's not serving you. Because I have to stop and think, where do I want to be in 15 years? Where do I want to be in 20 years, 25 years? What is my mobility like? Right? Because I'm in my mid 40s now. Do I want to be able to get up and off a chair or table without like pressing up? Do I want to be able to get down and clean or pick up something off the floor, play with my grandkids? Do I want to be able to haul my body up into the side of a boat off a ladder? Because I had a client to say that was a struggle once. Keeping up with your family, right? The mobility of your body, because we lose muscle very quickly. And also if our weight continues to increase, it's harder to move. And then also, what do you want that body to look like in 15 to 20 years? Right? I don't care what the scale says. I want to know how you move. I want to know, ideally, 15, 20 years from now, understanding age, right? We're going to put on some body fat, but what do I want to look like? Well, that is determined by what we do today. So that's when I stop and think, okay, long-term health. Am I already feeling irritated and short and crabby? And then the mom guilt's terrible because I don't want to be that way. I'm snapping. So what's it going to be like in 15 more years of continuing to keep with these same patterns? I don't want to identify as the mom that is crabby and snappy and irritable. I want to have identity of someone that has a good relationship with food and can eat it and not feel bad, but also not finish the bowl. So once you determine, like, have that real conversation and assess it, write it down, journal about it if you need to. It's like, okay, I can see where the problem is. It isn't that it's the cheat food or there's nothing wrong with you. You're not a failure. You can't not stick to diet plans. It's just the habits, right? It's identity that you have. So an easy way to start, and depending on your personality, there's two things we can do. One is cut it cold turkey. I've tried both of these. They both worked for me, but I was very highly motivated because I was really, really feeling crappy in a bad place. And I'd snapped at my daughter really bad. And I felt awful after snapping over something so dumb, and the look in her eyes. And I was like, I'm done. I literally don't want any of it in my life anymore because I know it was from sugar. And I also, it was an easier place to start than trying to figure out how to adjust my meals and get more protein or fiber. Like I wasn't ready to change that part of my diet yet. So I cut it all out. And, anything even resembled a treat. And so for me, because I knew that I was an all or nothing, I knew that I couldn't just cut down. I didn't have the willpower or self-control yet to do that. So I had to remove it all from the house, right? And so I went 3 months with no sugar treats at all. So if I wanted a treat, let me be more specific. It was like apple slices with peanut butter. I still had a treat. I still ate, but I chose something that was a little more nutrient dense. I started getting in. I made my own homemade granola, and I would throw some vanilla yogurt with some berries. So again, I wasn't looking at calorie numbers. I was just looking at trying to get foods that were healthier, that were, granted there was still sugar in that, but it was a little bit more, nutrient dense versus the bowl of ice cream or the bag of Skittles I'd just eaten, right? So it was the baby steps of there's a good, better, best. And I knew that I just had to cut out all of the processed stuff. So I will say, not only did it put me in a deficit because I removed a whole bunch of it. So it's a great way to be in a calorie deficit. I didn't have to adjust my meals. I just pulled out all my snacks. And that right there is probably 1,000+ calories because I was eating a lot. And I started to feel better. Go figure, right? My body's not on this roller coaster of sugar coming in and going out and then more and then craving more and then crashing and up and down. And that same daughter, I've told stories 1,000 times, right? Comes in the kitchen 3 months later and says, you seem happier. I'm like, yeah, it's been a good day. She's like, no, you seem happier. She goes, you don't yell at me anymore. The only thing I changed was the sugar. So for me, that was enough of an epiphany to be like, there's something to this and I'm never going back. I changed my identity. Right? I now was someone that didn't have to crave it or need it or, oh my gosh, you can almost sometimes become a slave to it. Like it gnaws in the back of your brain of, I want that. I need to have one more. Or even someone that's like, well, I bought that whole cookie, so I have to eat the whole cookie because I paid for it. No, I don't. Right? I had to work on stopping when I was satisfied and not eating the whole thing, not eating the whole tray of Rice Krispies. So after that 3 months, I realized the impact that it had made on me. And I was a different person. I didn't yell. I wasn't snappy. And I haven't ever gone back to that, in the years since then. It was just changing the identity of what my habits were and who I was. And then I trapped myself into like, I'm just someone that likes to snack. I'm just someone that's a big eater at night. I'm just an emotional eater. I would say those things. And I'm like, I'm not. I'm in control of myself, and it's going to take me a while, but I'm going to get over those things. And it was a very, very slow process. But I did it. And then I can say, I am someone that makes healthier food choices. I am someone that can have a treat every day. I look forward to it, but I don't need 5 treats. I'm someone that can have 2 to 3 bites of something and set it down. And so that's taken, I mean, a lot of work. I never would have thought I'd be there. Now, some people can't go cold turkey and cut it all out. That was easier for me because then it was like, because I felt like if I still had chips, it'd be easier then for me to have the ice cream later. Because I'm like, well, I already had chips. That wasn't healthy. I might as well just have ice cream today. So for me, because I had to evaluate and assess where I was, this is before I knew anything about nutrition, I just cut it all. And then after the 3-month mark, I realized, okay, I'm better. I can live. I can have a couple chips now. Because I didn't give in once in those 3 months, not once. It was so hard to go to like family events. And I'd have to be eating just off the veggie tray and then overlook all the cookies, the little donuts, or like anything that was, the yummy stuff. But for me, I had to get over the cravings and I don't know, the relationship that I had to it. And so that worked for me. That does not work for everybody. So if you're someone that's like, no, I got to ease into this because you assess yourself, you know how you handle things. So then the opposite would be just reduce slowly. So do an evaluation throughout the whole day, right? If you have 3 meals throughout the day, maybe you have 2 to 3 snacks. And that's about average, right? But all of that should fit to with your calorie goal for the day. So maybe you like 2 big meals and lots of snacks. Maybe you're eating 6 times a day. As long as that's broken up and you have you always want to pair it with like a protein, healthy fat, and a carb. So it fills you up, satiates you, gives you energy. That's like a perfect combination. It's basically what works for you. I like 3 big meals and then 2 to 3 snacks in between. So if you're someone that when you calculate and you look at your day and you're like, crap, throughout the day, I have a handful of maybe M&Ms. I have a little bit of chips here, or I'll have bread and, I don't know, jam, or I make a little tortilla, things that aren't meals, but are snacks. They can be anything. When you look at those, to include stopping for soda, it's like, crap, I've got 8 times I snack throughout the day. And some are really high calories and some are low. Some have lots of sugar, some don't. Some are healthy, great, keep those in. But if let's say you have 8 that are mostly not healthy, meaning high sugar content, processed, not a whole lot of value with micronutrients like fruits or vegetables, just start, let's say you have 8 of those a day, then just work on doing 7. Right? You probably are ingrained to having them throughout the certain days or like habits of what you eat when you want. So we're just going to reduce it by 1 and show yourself, okay, I can overcome that craving for that thing that I want, the small handful of M&Ms while I'm watching my show or whatever it is right after dinner. I'm just going to work on not having that. But I'm okay because I know that in 2 hours when I would want my next snack, I can have a snack then. So you don't feel deprived or restricted, but you're working on actually overcoming it, but 1 craving at a time, basically. So then a week or 2 and you're like, hey, I actually don't need that. It's disappeared, right? And there's tips like, obviously don't have that snack in the house. Drink a full glass of water. That will usually fill it up. Leave the room if the food is near you. Find a distraction. Sometimes with sugar, when you start to crave something, when you stand up and do like 25 air squats, just body weight squats, how glucose works and coming out of the blood, it's crazy how that will eliminate some of the cravings. And then after 2 weeks, you're like, okay, now I'm at 7 snacks. I was at 8, I'm at 7, now drop to 6. Great. You're down to 6, and then you're down to 5, then you're down to 4. And then you can determine, well, within my calorie range, I want a total of, let's say 4 snacks. And they fit within your calorie goal. So then out of those 4, maybe I'm going to swap out one of them for a healthier, right? So now you're still having 4 snacks, but one's going to be a little less sugar processed, and it's, I don't know, celery sticks with peanut butter, something. And then you decide, okay, I can swap out the 3rd now for another healthier. And then that leaves 2 that are totally unhealthy, wonderful guilty pleasures because it just tastes good, calms your nerves, whatever we have our little treat for, right? And so it could take you 3-4 months to work on that. I spent almost a whole year just figuring out sugar and treats and getting off soda. And then when I reintroduced food, I had to figure out how much I can eat and not start to binge again. So you enter it again, seeing how much, if you did what I did where you've cut it all back, I had to figure out what's a healthy amount. So I have a healthy relationship with that food to where I can choose, I can have that when we go out and I don't feel guilty. I've been waiting all day to have this little bowl of ice cream. It fits in my calorie goals and I haven't had much sugar throughout the rest of the day. And I look forward to it. And that's given me that healthy relationship with food. It's so much easier said than done, snacking is, because we're usually bored, right? It's an emotional release, or it's the only thing we feel like we can control. And so we've got to looking at the emotion of why we feel that way. If you're bored, we got to come up with something else to do, a hobby, the time of day that it usually hits. Also, if you're like, well, I'm just hungry, I need a snack again, look at the meal just prior to that and bolster that meal up. Right? Start with your fiber and then have some really good protein, add a healthy fat, maybe a carb to it, whatever that is. Or if it's a snack, really bolster it up, meaning it's going to be more filling. Protein and healthy fats are what's going to fill you up the fastest. So if you're having a lot of snacks that are like carbs, whether it's fruit or candy, those don't fill you up for as long. Certain carbs do. Some complex carbs will fill you up longer, so that's great. But if you're eating white bread or toast or little things, it's going to be in and out of your system within a half an hour. So then you're going to be eating again. So the calories just keep adding up and adding up because you're still hungry, because the food that we're eating isn't filling you up. It's just getting burned and utilized. So that's why I would suggest I love mixed nuts. I'll do unsalted mixed nuts, and I add, again, they have really, really high calories, so be very aware of like how many you're putting in your hand. I figured out like I want 1/4 of a cup. So I take my nut jar, like from Costco, my little container, and I put in Ziploc bags my serving size that I want. Because when I have the whole tub, oh my gosh, what I used to do was get like a Ziploc bag and just fill it. And I'm like, I'll throw it in my purse or bag, and I'll just munch on it when I need it. But at the end of the day, the whole bag was gone. That's like 2,000 calories. I had no idea, because it's just like one here, one there. I'm grazing, right? I'm bored in the car. I'm on the phone. I'm not even paying attention. So now I get rid of the container immediately, and I put them in serving sizes of Ziploc bags for what I want for the day, and I throw that. So you just have to beat around like what makes me fail. Okay, it was a lack of planning. Either I keep the whole container in my house, or I put a huge bag in my car. So I just graze, I pull some out, some out, some out. Well, let me determine ahead of time how much fits in my daily calorie goals. And then I'll put that in a Ziploc bag, and then just leave them in your counter. And so you pull one of those out. Same if I know a lot of girls will say, hey, my treat for the day is actually like a little handful of chocolate chips, like milk chocolate chips that you'd bake with. Like, that's great. So instead of like estimating or having half the bag, or, keep getting more and more because you're distracted because you're on the phone or you're typing or something, take out the size you want, put it in a Ziploc bag, and then set it to the side, and then get rid of the whole bag, right? So now you have sections, right? So you can just grab one that's the serving size that you want. So it's kind of setting yourself up for success. So again, it's not having the foods in the house that you don't want to eat, that you want to get rid of. Don't buy them. And then giving yourself serving sizes that are already like prepackaged, that are easier for you to get to. So even if you have here's one. This isn't even like a very bad. And when I say bad, I mean bad isn't like I was going to say lower nutrient or sugar, or it's protein bars, right? Like protein bars are better than a Snickers bar. At least I'm getting protein from it, and there's some fiber in it, and it's stevia instead of just plain sugar. And so I have found, like, something I've struggled with, which is what made me think about this topic today, is I eat too much processed protein. So when I looked at my snacks, right, look at the type of snacks they are, and it was convenience foods. Because when I'm not home, I'm on the road going from place to place to place, and I don't want to pull over and buy, fast food or takeout. I don't know what's in it. I don't know what I want. I'm not in an area that I know there's worse, something that I want to eat. I don't know how to track it. Don't want to pay for money for it, like whatever reason. So I just throw things in my bag. Well, I didn't plan ahead very well because I'm not very good at that. And I'm up late and I leave early, my excuses, right? So I'll have like a beef stick, and then I'll have a protein bar, and then a protein Pop-Tart. And then it'll be like a little, I don't know, protein, like a granola kind bar or something. And then a protein shake after my workout, and then another protein bar, or fruit leather strips, right? And those aren't on a good, better, best. I could be eating things that have a lot higher sugar that have no redeeming value for my body, right? At least some of these things have good micronutrients in them. But I can't have that much convenience foods. It's wrecked my gut. So when I step back, I'm like, dude, my lack of planning for bringing snacks that I know that I would like to eat that will make me feel better, the processed proteins wrecked my gut. And after 5 years of doing this, right? And my body craves protein bars. So I've stepped back for the last couple of weeks doing like a gut protocol, letting it heal. Because I did some tests and it came back messed up. And so no processed protein at all. And my protein bars were just from Costco. Like, they're stevia based. It's high fiber, high protein. I thought it was pretty good. I've had them for 5 years. Well, my body after 5 years craves them. So I'm not having one in the morning before my workout now. And my body like screams at me all morning. It's like, I want one. I want one. That's a little bit of sugar hit we'd have in the morning, right? And it's hard. So I don't want you to sit at home and be like, why am I the only one that can't cut back on my treats or my snacks? Why do I always give give in. I'm thinking about something and I want it, and all of a sudden I can taste it and I think about it for the next hour. I just give in to get rid of that feeling, that craving, and I just eat it. I don't want you to think it's just you. I go through the same thing. We have different foods you might crave. Maybe it's soda that you crave, but it is critical to look at. If I feel that way, that tells me this isn't probably pretty good. Probably should have some more boundaries up with this food item. I was having it too often if my body's going through and craving that. And so I want you to know, like, as healthy as I feel like I can be and very aware of what I'm eating, I still get these things. It's still hard. The guy that's helping me with my gut protocol, I text him all the time, like, can I please just have a protein bar? I'm so tired every morning of like fighting that, not wanting to have it, because I always have it in my car. It's just on my way to my workout. It's just my routine. He's like, no. Oh my gosh, I am stronger than the craving for protein bars. So that tells me something's off. And I like that because it gives me something to work towards. And it's been enough weeks now that I don't crave them anymore. And when my gut is healed, I will reintroduce them, but at a much lower quantity, right? I won't be having them as my meal or as my go-to convenience snack with all the other stuff. It's paired with too many things. So I'll have one, but then I'll have healthier meals that I've planned out throughout the rest of the morning and day. So again, we all deal with habits with sugar and cravings and snacking differently. It's very overwhelming. So look at whether you're someone that can do the all or nothing, or look at if you're someone that can just slowly wean back, but you must have a plan, right? And so pick which of these things you don't want. Look at the snacks, write it all out and look at it and say, oh my gosh, it's all straight sugar. Or, oh my gosh, I didn't realize throughout the day I'm having 4 sodas. I didn't even realize that. And so instead of like, if you're going from 4 sodas to 3, which I have a lot of clients have a lot of sodas refills through the day. If you're going from 4 and you want to go down to 3, then on that time period where you would have usually, right, had that last one that you're now cutting out, have a full glass of water, like I said earlier. Or if you even need to drink half the can, right? And then not use the other half the can. You can do that. And then after a couple of weeks, you've gotten rid of that craving for then, and then we can jump to the next one. But it's being aware of, okay, what can I handle? I don't think I can cut all those out because I don't want to deal with the 5 times a day I'd have the cravings. I can just handle that one. But then it's reestablishing, rewiring how we work and think about our food. And it's building a new identity of, now I'm not someone that's controlled by this. I'm not someone that has to have 4, Cokes a day. I'm someone that's in control of, do I want one? You know what? I actually don't feel like one now right now. I don't want the caffeine from it. I'll have one tomorrow. And then I'm to the point now to where, like, I love a good Dr. Pepper. And so it's like, if I go out on a date or, I don't know, with friends, or I'm celebrating something and I choose to, I think about it during the day, what do I want for dinner tonight? It's always thought ahead because I always want to make my choices ahead and not impulsive in the minute. I'm like, nope, I'm going to have one with dinner tonight. And I'm not a huge drinker of like really of anything. I'm like the one that sips through the whole day. I'll have like half of the glass Dr. Pepper, 3/4 of it. And a lot, that's ice. I just don't eat a lot, but I used to have it all the time. It's taken me a while. I'm now the identity of someone that doesn't have to have it. I choose ahead of time and I enjoy it. So when you're looking at your meals and planning ahead, think every meal, like I lay in bed the night before and I plan out what I want to eat the next day. Okay, where am I going to be? Because your days change so fast if you're like me and with kids and running around. And so like in bed just the night before, I finally have a good handle of what my day will look like. And I'm like, okay, when I wake up, I'm going to do this. Okay, I'm going to do this. Oh, I'm going to be in that car for 3 hours. What can I pack? Okay, I can grab that as a snack. Okay, great. And just go wander the aisles of Costco. They have so many things packaged together that makes it easy. And again, it's good, better, best. Is that the very best, most micronutrient dense item you can have? Maybe not. Maybe there's still some sugar in it, but it is better than the Snickers you were having, or not eating at all, right? Because we definitely need food. We need to eat every couple of hours. So just be proud of yourself for those small little changes. But I promise, as you decide, I want less sugar in my life, I want a better, healthy relationship with food, I don't want to be snacking as much, I'd like to lose some body fat, and I realize it's all these snacks, those calories that are adding up. It's going to be looking at those and then changing how we view it, changing our mindset, and working on eliminating the cravings for it. So keep in mind, don't think, oh, now I've put on weight, I'm just going to go exercise, but I'm going to keep those habits the same. It doesn't work like that. It's those habits that got your body fat where it is. It's going to be the habits that get it not where it is and where you want it to be. Exercise is like 5 to 10% calories burned. It's a bonus. We don't even exercise for calorie burns, right? It's to change the shape of the body to feel better, heart health, things like that. So that's why I really stress, like, you got to understand the habits, work on those cravings, identify them, let yourself sit in it and feel and assess how I really am. Don't look for, other outside sources like exercise to get rid of that. You can do it. I promise you. Don't give yourself a timeline. Just focus on, I'm changing myself. I'm not going to be someone that's a slave to this food anymore. I want to be someone that has a healthy relationship. And I promise you can do it.